Here in Atlanta, there are a number of monuments, museums like this one, commemorating what people of color went through during the civil rights era. But there is still a lot of work to be done to bring justice to the victims of violence.
These are two of the four little girls who...
Thousands of faces, each with a family, a home, a cause, a life, taken because of hate.
We have seen in Atlanta, there was a huge case of mob violence and lynching where 25 people were killed to justice later on.
The National Center for Civil and Human Rights displays photos of lynching victims and other martyrs of the civil rights movement.
A lynching is it's often mob violence, but it can be a small group that kills somebody without regard for the legal process.
This map by the Equal Justice Initiative shows how prevalent these acts were in the South and right here in Georgia. There were over 4,000 lynchings between the 1860s and 1960s in the United States, with over 500 happening in our state.
These unsolved lynchings are open wounds for our community, for our community's spirit, for our state's spirit.
And many of these murders remain unsolved.
These crimes were swept under the rug. That's why I wrote this legislation, and we've now passed this legislation.
Senator Jon Ossoff, along with Senator Ted Cruz, penned the bipartisan legislation Civil Rights Cold Case Investigations Support Act of 2022.
This Civil Rights Cold Case Investigations Board will investigate these unsolved lynchings, murders, vicious assaults.
It sounds like an overwhelming feat when you look at how many cases there are and how much time has passed.
There are police records, there are death certificates, there are a whole range of historical artifacts that you can look to and piece the story together.
The cases being looked at are from the 1940s, 50s, and 60s.
I've sat down with the relatives and descendants of lynching victims. Those families still demand justice, and the victims of these heinous acts still deserve justice.
But it's never too late for these cases to close.
It's crucially important that this happened because there's not closure for the families. They don't have a measure of justice.
The bill is passed the House, passed the Senate. Now all needs to happen is President Biden to sign it into law, and that's set to happen any day now. Reporting in Atlanta, I'm Madeline Montgomery, Atlanta News First.